Millions watched him rescue stranded vehicles across Utah's harshest terrain, a wholesome family man building an empire one recovery at a time. But behind the cameras and heartwarming saves, experts were sounding alarms that nobody wanted to hear. From dangerous techniques that allegedly inspired a fatal accident to criminal charges that exposed a web of deception, the signs were everywhere. His own crew started disappearing without explanation. The community tried to warn us, but the views kept rolling in. By the time people started paying attention, the damage was already done. This is what we all missed. Matt Wetzel wasn't always a YouTube star. Just a few years ago, he was grinding it out as a roofing contractor in Hurricane, Utah, trying to make ends meet like everyone else. But Matt had a vision that would change everything. He saw an opportunity in the unforgiving desert landscape surrounding his hometown, where vehicles got stuck constantly and help was hours away. Armed with a beat-up truck and some recovery gear, he started pulling people out of impossible situations. What began as a side hustle quickly exploded into something nobody expected. Matt's genuine personality and dramatic rescues captured lightning in a bottle. Viewers couldn't get enough of watching him tackle recoveries that seemed absolutely impossible. Vehicles perched on cliff edges, buried axle-deep in sand, or twisted around trees in remote canyons. Matt made it look easy, and his subscriber count skyrocketed past the million mark faster than anyone anticipated. The channel became a full-blown family operation. His kids joined the crew, turning recoveries into bonding experiences that resonated with audiences worldwide. The comment sections overflowed with praise. People loved the authenticity, the can-do attitude, the heartwarming moments when stranded families were reunited with their vehicles. Sponsorships poured in, merchandise flew off the shelves. Matt had built something special, a recovery empire that seemed untouchable. But beneath the surface, cracks were already forming that would eventually bring everything crashing down. While fans celebrated every upload, a different conversation was happening in professional recovery circles. Experienced operators watched Matt's videos with growing alarm, pointing out techniques that made their blood run cold. Forum threads filled with warnings from people who'd spent decades in the industry. They saw disaster waiting to happen, but their voices got drowned out by millions of enthusiastic subscribers who didn't know any better. The toe ball technique became the most controversial flashpoint. Matt frequently used a simple ball hitch for recoveries that professionals said required proper rigging equipment. To experienced eyes, this was playing Russian roulette. The forces involved in off-road recovery can be absolutely devastating, and a toe ball wasn't designed to handle that kind of stress. If it failed under load, it could turn into a projectile capable of killing someone instantly. Recovery experts practically begged viewers not to copy what they were seeing, but the warnings fell on deaf ears. Matt's techniques looked straightforward and accessible, which was part of the appeal. Why spend thousands on specialized gear when a basic toe ball seemed to work just fine on screen? What viewers didn't understand was the survivorship bias at play. They only saw the successful recoveries that made it into videos, not the near misses or the physics that made professionals lose sleep at night. The comment sections became battlegrounds between concerned experts and defensive fans who accused them of jealousy. Meanwhile, people across the country were attempting these same techniques on their own vehicles. April 2021 brought the nightmare scenario that experts had been dreading. Ryan Woods was attempting a vehicle recovery with friends in a remote area, excited to try techniques he'd learned from watching YouTube videos. His wife and children were there, expecting to witness a successful rescue they could tell stories about later. Instead, they watched him die right in front of them when a toe ball failed catastrophically during the recovery attempt. The projectile struck Ryan with lethal force. There was nothing anyone could do. A family outing turned into unspeakable tragedy in seconds, exactly the way recovery professionals had predicted. The aftermath sent shockwaves through the off-road community and ignited a firestorm of debate that nobody could ignore anymore. Witnesses and reports suggested Ryan had been following methods he'd seen demonstrated in Matt's videos, trying to replicate what looked simple and effective on screen. The community fractured instantly. Some placed direct blame on Matt for popularizing dangerous techniques to millions of inexperienced viewers. Others defended him furiously, arguing that he couldn't be held responsible for how people chose to use information from his videos. The comment sections turned toxic with arguments that got more heated by the day. Matt addressed the situation, expressing sympathy while maintaining he always included safety disclaimers, but for many the damage was done. A man was dead, children lost their father, and the warnings that had been dismissed for years suddenly seemed prophetic. The question nobody could answer: how many other close calls had happened that never made the news? Just when the recovery community thought things couldn't get more complicated, a bombshell dropped that changed everything. December 2021 brought criminal charges that exposed a side of Matt's operation nobody saw coming. Prosecutors alleged he'd been running an elaborate insurance fraud scheme, racking up over $15,000 in false claims submitted to AAA. This wasn't some administrative mistake or paperwork confusion. According to authorities, Matt had systematically gamed the system to fund his off-road recovery business. The details were damning. AAA memberships cover roadside assistance for vehicles stuck on actual roads, not off-road recoveries in remote desert locations. But Matt had allegedly found a workaround. Court documents revealed a pattern of recoveries that should never have been covered under standard AAA policies, yet somehow claims were being processed and paid out. The money-funded equipment supported operations and helped build the empire that viewers celebrated in every video. Matt's response tried to frame it as a misunderstanding about policy interpretation. He claimed things were wrong on the front end but fair on the back, suggesting his services were worth what he billed even if the claims shouldn't have gone through AAA. But prosecutors saw it differently. This wasn't a gray area or honest confusion about coverage rules. According to the charges, this was deliberate fraud executed repeatedly over an extended period. The wholesome family business image took a massive hit. Fans who'd defended Matt through the safety controversies now faced uncomfortable questions about the person they'd been supporting all along. As the legal process unfolded, the full scope of the operation came into focus. Court filings painted a picture of systematic manipulation that went beyond simple billing errors. Matt had allegedly coached customers on how to file claims using AAA memberships that didn't belong to them, creating a network of false documentation to justify payments. Friends and family members with memberships became unwitting accomplices, their accounts used to process claims for recoveries they had nothing to do with. The most brazen aspect? Some of these allegedly fraudulent recoveries were literally filmed and uploaded to YouTube. Evidence of the crimes was sitting in public view, watched by millions who had no idea they were seeing insurance fraud in action. Prosecutors didn't have to work hard to build their case when the defendant had essentially documented everything himself. The channel that made Matt famous became a liability that complicated any defense strategy. The legal maneuvering stretched on for months while the YouTube community watched and speculated. Would Matt fight the charges or take a deal? The uncertainty hung over every new video upload. Finally, resolution came through a guilty plea to misdemeanor charges. Matt avoided felony convictions but faced probation, fines, and the permanent stain on his reputation. The sentence was lighter than it could have been, but the damage extended far beyond the courtroom. Sponsors reconsidered their relationships. Viewers questioned their loyalty. The empire built on trust and authenticity now rested on a foundation that looked increasingly shaky with each new revelation about what had been happening behind the scenes. Most creators would have shut down their channels after scandals like these. The combination of a fatal accident linked to his techniques and criminal fraud convictions seemed like an insurmountable obstacle. But Matt made a different choice. The videos kept coming, the recoveries continued, and the channel pushed forward as if determined to prove it could survive anything. Some viewers appreciated the resilience and gave him credit for not abandoning ship. Others saw it as tone-deaf, a refusal to acknowledge the severity of what had happened. The comment sections reflected the divide. Loyal fans insisted everyone deserved second chances and that Matt had paid his debt to society. Critics argued that continuing to profit from YouTube after everything that transpired showed a lack of genuine remorse. The debates raged under every video, creating an atmosphere of constant tension that never quite dissipated. Views fluctuated as some subscribers left while curious newcomers arrived, drawn by the controversy itself. Behind the scenes, though, something else was happening that proved harder to ignore. The crew that had been featured prominently in videos started disappearing. Not all at once, but in a steady trickle that raised questions Matt never fully addressed. The tight-knit family operation that viewers loved began looking very different. New faces appeared without explanation while familiar ones vanished. The changes were impossible to miss for longtime viewers, yet Matt glossed over departures with vague references to people moving on or pursuing other opportunities. The lack of transparency only fueled more speculation about what was really happening within the organization. The departures became impossible to ignore when even family members started leaving. Rudy, Matt's own son who'd been a central figure in countless recoveries, walked away from the family business. No dramatic announcement, no explanation video, just gone. For a channel built on family values and togetherness, having your own kid abandon ship sent a message that words couldn't hide. Fans demanded answers that never came, left to fill the silence with their own theories and speculation. But Rudy wasn't alone. Lizzie, Tucker, Trevor, Tom, Skeeter, names that viewers had grown attached to over hundreds of videos, all disappeared from the channel. Each departure fueled more questions. What would make an entire crew abandon a successful operation? The turnover rate seemed abnormally high for a thriving business with steady income and YouTube fame. Something wasn't adding up, and Matt's reluctance to address it directly only intensified the mystery. The prevailing theories ranged from personality conflicts to disagreements about ethics and business practices. Some speculated that the legal troubles and controversial techniques had become too much for crew members to stomach. Others suggested money disputes or creative differences. Without anyone speaking publicly, the truth remained elusive. What was clear, the wholesome family operation that initially attracted millions had fractured in ways that contradicted everything the channel claimed to represent. New crew members filled the gaps, but longtime viewers noticed the chemistry was different. The magic that made those early videos special had evaporated, replaced by something that felt more corporate and less authentic.